Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the NECA Horror of Dracula Van Helsing. I ordered this from Best Buy. Actually ordered it for the NECA store, but they never shipped. So Best Buy for the win, NECA store for the cancel. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see at the top, Horror of Dracula in Technicolor. Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Van Helsing Ultimate Action Figure. Here's the front, kind of similar to a movie poster. Van Helsing slaying the vampire. Dracula in the background. Horror of Dracula. Other side of the package, the same thing. At the back, here's the figure. A ton of different display options and accessories. I really like that when NECA gives two completely different looks in one figure. And at the bottom, there's a barcode, if that helps. So this is one of NECA's ultimate figures. Window box packaging, you can hear the Velcro as I open it up. On the inside flap, here's Van Helsing post up, and then here he is with all the accessories laid out. So with no further ado, let's open him up. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all the accessories laid out, and he comes with a ton of cool stuff. We have 6 alternate hands, totaling 8 interchangeable hands, 3 heads, 2 candlestick holders, a cross, 1 single stake, a bundle of stakes, a hammer, and the coolest accessory is going to be a completely different upper torso that we can have this guy in 2 totally different looks. One with the coat on, and one with just the vest and shirt. NECA could have made 2 different versions of Van Helsing and 2 different looks, but they gave all of it in one package. A true ultimate figure. So let's take a closer look. Start with this head here. Hat looks good. Face looks good. Mine has a little tiny paint chip on the sort of shoulder there, the bicep. That is very noticeable and annoying. His coat looks good. Brown fur, white scarf, buttons down the front, black gloves, black pants, black dress shoes. It all looks pretty good. And I love the fact that you can have him with the coat on, hat on, coat on, hat off, coat totally off. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. And then, here's the figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's check out his accessories, starting off with his hands. He has a total of 10 hands, 5 left hands, and 5 right hands. Here he is, with his first pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands with no gloves on. And here's his second pair of hands. This is a pair of default hands. They would look good relaxed at his sides. Now for his gloved hands. Here's the first pair. This is a pair of gripping hands. And then another pair of gripping hands. These have a smaller grip. And his last pair of hands. This is a pair of default hands with gloves on. Now let's look at his heads. He has 3 of them. One with a hat on and a normal expression. One with a hat off and a normal expression. And one with the hair sort of messy. And he's frantic. That's when he's in action, fighting Dracula. Here he is with his first head. This one has the hat on and the normal expression. And then his second head. This one has the hat off and the regular expression. And here's his last head. This looks like it's going to be him while he's fighting Dracula. Now let's look at his torsos. He has 2 completely different looks. One with the hat, coat, and gloves on. And then one without any of those things, shirt, and a vest. Here's Van Helsing's first look, with all his gear on. And here's his second look. Shirt and vest on. Looks pretty good. Looks like could be an accountant for the mob. Now let's look at the hammer, cross, and stakes. So we have a little hammer here to hammer the stake into your heart. Then we have a small silver cross to repel the vampires. And then we have one individual wooden stake, as well as a bundle of 4 more. Here's Van Helsing holding his stake and hammer, and then here, trying to keep the vampires at bay, keep them away with his cross. And his final accessory, we have these candlestick holders. Very large, they look heavy, black, those were pointed at the top. Here he is, holding those 2 candlestick holders like a makeshift cross. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at the figure and his accessories, let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing about 6.9 inches tall, which can translate to just under 18 centimeters. And for his articulation, starting with his head, of course, it can rotate side to side. He can look up and down, pretty good amount. Can tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders, ball joint, goes up about 90 degrees. Up, down, around. He's got single jointed elbow, goes in about 90 degrees with rotation. The wrists can rotate, and they're hinged. These ones are hinged up and down. Torso is one solid piece. He's got the ball joint in his torso, and it does come apart, not exactly easily, but it can, so just be kind of careful. Rotate around, forward and back. Legs, completely does the splits. Ball joints inside of there. Rotation against the ball joints, pretty good. They go forward about that far. Back, not much. Single jointed knee, which I heated his legs up earlier, but God, that was hard to do. With rotation. And his ankle. Forward and back. Tilt rock. A little bit of rotation as well. And now let's switch to a church type setting for the next part. Here's a look at both versions of Van Helsing in a church type setting. One has a hammer and a stake, the other a makeshift cross. Now let's check them out next to some other action figures. Starting off with some other NECA figures. Here's the Peter Cushing Van Helsing next to the Christopher Lee Dracula, adversaries against each other. And here, next to the older Universal Monsters Bela Lugosi Dracula. They released this Dracula 5 different times. The glow-in-the-dark version, black and white version, regular color version, the Loot Crate version, and the Loot Fright version. And here, with another NECA vampire, this is Nosferatu. They made 3 different versions, black and white, color, and glow-in-the-dark. Then, with yet another NECA vampire, this is the Count from the Munsters. Here's this actual Van Helsing figure, next to a Ninja Turtles crossover with Universal Monsters, Splinter as Van Helsing. And here he is, with a couple of Marvel Legends Dracula figures. Here's Van Helsing, next to some NECA classic Universal Monster horror figures. Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. And here he is, with some more modern horror icons. We have Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, and Pinhead from Hellraiser. Now let's check him out, next to some other recently released NECA figures. Here he is, next to 4 recent Ultimate Beetlejuice figures. 2 from the second film, and 2 from the first film. And here he is, with NECA's 2 most recent Jaws figures, Hooper and Quint. Then, with some recent modern horror icon releases, we have Pamela Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 1, Michael Myers from Halloween 6, and a couple versions of Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1. Here's Van Helsing, next to NECA's recent Pee Wee Herman figure. Next, with a couple of NECA Ninja Turtle, Eastman Lair, comic, Leatherhead, and April O'Neil figures. And finally, with a couple of recent classic horror figures, Ardith Bay from the Mummy, and the robed version of the Invisible Man. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a NECA figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the large action figure lines I collect, and work way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his NECA brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figures, all from NECA Toys, all 7-inch scale. And now, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures, and some Diamond Select toys, here's Van Helsing next to a bunch of junk mail from my mailbox. And here he is, with some McFarlane and DC Direct figures. Then, with both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures. And now, with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures. Next, with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends. And finally, with some SH Figure Arts and Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, it's a really nice Van Helsing figure. I'd say the likeness is pretty spot on. It looks good. I absolutely love the two different looks. I'm sure there will be a ton of people that are going to buy two of the figures to display them both ways. This is truly an ultimate figure. Tons of other accessories. The sculpt paint job is excellent. My only real complaint would be when you pull them apart and you put them back together, he can come apart fairly easily. It is really hard to shove the part with the coat back with the legs. Just really hard to sort of control what's going on inside of there. If I had to rate this guy, solid 7.5 out of 10. Probably should give an 8. Probably underrating him, so I will land at an 8. I like the figure a lot. I like both looks. And I think it's an excellent release. Very well done. I would love to get a Hugh Jackman version of Van Helsing. That'd be pretty cool. So this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say with the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.